emerging technology space. We are indeed blessed to have her with us today. Dr. Roselie Alday obtained her PhD in education major in mathematics at the University of the Philippines, while her master's in computer science at the La Salle University. She intentionally combined computer science and mathematics in her specialization with the objective of making the teaching of mathematics easy and fun to computer science and information technology students to make their foundation in logical thinking solid in preparation for their future careers. This objective is being materialized since she was the Dean of the College of Computer Studies, whereas in her 28th year of service to Lyceum of the Philippines University, whose track records in quality assurance had achieved not only national but as well as international accreditation. As such, she had undergone almost all training in the United States of America on international accreditation under ABET since 2012. She had achieved to have their BSIT, Bachelor of Science in Information Technology, to be the first ABET accredited in the region in 2017. In fact, she had just received last October the ABET Innovation Award 2020 as she was the founding president of a student organization that provides seminars, training, and conferences for students by providing industry experts as IT is a fast changing technology. She had been a quality assurance accreditor, evaluator, and consultant on international accreditation. She has also research publication in Scopus journals as she endeavors to achieve quality education through dedicated service in quality teaching. We are really happy to have you with us. I request you to kindly take over the session. Over to you, ma'am.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Let me share my presentation. Can you see my slide?
Yes, ma'am, we can see your slide.
Okay. Mabuhay from the Philippines. It is a great honor to be with you today. And thank you for inviting our university to be represented in this event. As our university president, Dr. Peter P. Laurel, was the 16th president of AUAP, we extend our heartfelt thanks for the invitation. So my talk is entitled, The Old World Meets the New World. How do you reduce risk in the emerging technology space? So as the whole world suffers from COVID-19 pandemic, almost all countries now suffers from the challenges brought about by the changing times. We are all caught unaware and unprepared for changes brought about by the pandemic. As this conference tackles on sharing of international practices and approaches, I will be dealing more of sharing of some practices in our country, the Philippines, in relation to some observation from countries I've been to in Asia, like Indonesia, Malaysia, Brunei, Vietnam, Singapore, China, Hong Kong, Japan, Thailand, the United States, and United Arab Emirates as well. My talk will be presented in 3 parts. First, it will be defining the old world. And second, what is and why is there a new world? And how can we reduce the risk in the technology space in relation to global education landscape? Let me discuss about the state of education with reference to the world pandemic. COVID-19 will greatly affect the condition of the world, and that is the pandemic being the dividing line between the two worlds. The distance between countries and among people are increasing. Some will laud these changes for increasing safety and resilience. People are always reminded to be at least 1 meter apart from each other to avoid contacting the virus. The pandemic makes the world that is less global and less urban, and this would mean less prosperous, less stable, and less fulfilling. Less global means more isolated. Even before COVID-19, the decades-long trend toward ever more globalization of trade, investment, supply chain, and people flows was beginning to grind to a halt. We began to look closer to home in terms of the products we produce and consume, and the people with whom we interact, and we get our energy and our money as well, where we can get reliable information, especially for learning and instruction. This is the same for the educational landscape. This will become old world, will become BC, meaning before COVID-19 pandemic, while the new world becomes DC, meaning during the COVID-19 pandemic and beyond, and EC, meaning after COVID-19 pandemic. The reaction of developed economies to the coronavirus will only strengthen this consensus, as all things international will be viewed as incurring unnecessary and with danger and risk. What was a growing anti-globalization consensus is poised to crystallize into a deglobalization reality. So we are being told this globalization will make us more resilient, but will also make us less prosperous, with less choices and higher prices. It may also make us less secure as international cooperation will decrease and the potential for international conflict will decrease. With the economy worldwide to be suffering, there is also education. So what would education be before pandemic? Before the pandemic, the world was already formidable changes in fulfilling the promise of education as a basic human right. Despite the near universal enrollment at early grades in most countries, an extraordinary number of children, more than 250 million, were out of school youth, and nearly 800 million adults were illiterate. So, and because of the pandemic, there had been school closures and disruption of education. So COVID-19 pandemic has caused the largest disruption of education in history, having already had a near universal impact on learners and teachers around the world. From pre-primary to secondary schools, technical and vocational education and training, institutions, universities, education, adult learning, and skills development and establishment. By mid-April last year of 2020, 94% of learners worldwide were affected by the pandemic, representing 1.58 billion children and youth from pre-primary to higher education in 200 countries. The pandemic had created the largest disruption of education system in history, affecting nearly 1.6 billion learners in more than 190 countries in all continents. Closures of schools and other learning spaces have impacted 94% of the world's student population, up to 99% in low and lower middle income countries. The crisis is exacerbating pre-existing education disparities by reducing the opportunity for many, the most vulnerable children, youth, and adults, those living in poor or rural areas, girls, refugees, persons with disabilities, and forcibly displaced persons, to continue their learning losses, also to threaten, extend beyond their generation, and erase decades of progress, not least in support of girls or young women education access and retention. Some 23.8 million additional children and youth from pre-primary to tertiary may drop out or that have access to school next year due to the pandemic's economic impact alone. Similarly, the education disruption had all and will continue to have substantial effects beyond education. Closure of educational institutions hamper the provision of essential services to children and communities, including areas to nutrition, food, affect the ability of many parents to work, and increase risk. On the other hand, the crisis has stimulated innovation within the educational sector. We have innovative approaches in support of education and training, continuity from radio, television, to home packages. Distance learning solutions were developed, and thanks to quick responses by governments and partners all over the world supporting education continuity, including the Global Education Coalition governed by UNESCO. We also have been reminded of the essential role of teachers and that governments and other key partners have an ongoing duty of care to educational personnel. But these changes have also highlighted that the promising future of learning and the accelerated changes in modes of delivering quality education cannot be separated from the imperative of leaving no one behind. This is true for children and youth affected by a lack of resources or an enabling environment to access learning. It is true for the teaching profession and their need for better training in new methods of educational delivery as well as support. Last but not the least, this is true for our education community at large, including local communities upon whom education continuity depends during crisis and who are the key to building back better. Based on the study of UNESCO, UNICEF, and World Bank, the most common forms of delivery of instruction in these times of pandemic are through radio, television, paper-based learning, and online learning. As this is true to the world, I will be discussing more of this in relation to the experience in the Philippines in the next slides. The transition of the two worlds from old to the new can be described as follows. Previously, almost all conduct of instruction in schools, colleges, and universities are through classroom instruction, while now it is mostly through online delivery of instruction. Previously, the practice of some schools, especially in our country, is to restrict the use of gadgets, especially cell phones and smartphones, from students as they are hooked to the use of social media and online gaming. There was a time that our Department of Education has to issue a memo that the students should not bring cell phone to schools, so that the teacher had to confiscate one before start of classes and return the cell phones to students after classes, being their mode of communication with their parents. When it comes to attendance to school, attendance is being checked by the teachers, such that the class advisors had to report to parents if there is excessive tardiness and absences of students. But now, attendance of students is being online, when in fact, presence cannot be authenticated as to who is really online or what they really online to listen to the teacher, or does someone made the students online when in fact they are still sleeping or doing something else. And the most important is the role of teachers in the conduct of the delivery of instruction. Previously, the teacher is the center of our classroom activities. Previously, especially for Filipino children in the elementary, the teachers are the source of all learnings, and that learning is always directed by the teachers. Now, the delivery instruction is now centered to the students. More of this will be discussed in the next slides. Here comes the old world versus the new world in education. Previously, in terms of face-to-face classes here in the Philippines, classes, especially in the public schools, consist as much as 50 to 60 students in one room. This is brought about by the implementation of the K-12 in the last year, 2015. As our country wanted to be at par with the world education system of 12 years of basic education, we had just started to offer the senior high school of the grade 11 and 12. So in return, we had just graduated 2 batches of basic education with 12 years of study, 6 years in the elementary, that is grade 1 to grade 6, 4 years for junior high school of grade 7 to 10, and 2 more years as senior high school of grade 11 to 12. While other countries in the number of students is not an issue, like the number of teachers available, the challenge of our country in terms of number of classrooms and teachers to fill the needs of the growing number of basic education students had been tough. Then, here comes the COVID-19. As some countries implemented stricter health protocols, most had opened their schools back to allow students to be in school. But the new normal becomes normal. Both teachers and students have to wear face masks. School tables had to be installed with dividers and cubicles. And students have to maintain proper distancing. So the teachers and the students had a feeling of what we call you are near but yet so far. But here in our country, specifically in the place we had just celebrated our 1 year of no face-to-face classes as prior to pandemic, we experienced volcanic eruption last June 12 of 2020, so that while most parts of the country started lockdown last March 17, 2020, our place started earlier due to ashfalls and fear of danger of future eruptions that we are blessed that not happen again as of this time since then. We are not aware then that the wearing of face masks in order not to inhale asphalt will it still be until now to avoid the virus. And because of the pandemic, teachers were forced to become on cam or camera. Teachers showcase their being creative, resourceful, and most of all, be interesting in their delivery of online instruction. Different platform can be used as well as software to make online learning enjoyable for the students. So the teachers were met by students online, and the teachers patiently conduct lectures in front of profile pictures of students. And for all we know, while the teacher is teaching, the whole family might be attending, especially for small children like kindergarten students who needs help in setting up the online learning platform that teachers is using, and that parents or guardians or relatives need to coach the kids from time to time as they need assistance. I just want to share some experiences and anecdotes of once in a life of a teacher and a student that we are facing in the daily conduct of classes. The first picture depicts that since there is a limited availability of computers and internet connections in some places, students need to be in group, look for a place with signal so they can attend the online classes. The next picture depicts the student who can afford to enroll in private schools as they can comfortably attend their online classes inside the comforts of their home, which are equipped with Wi-Fi and more stable internet connections. But here in our country, those enrolled in public schools are not having the online classes, but the modular mode of learning. That is, modules or learning materials are being picked up by parents on a Monday morning in school. The students need to answer all class activities in paper for a week and have those submitted in the next month for the parents to get the next batch of modules to answer. Clearly, no teaching and learning that happens. The student just relied on the reading comprehension of the students and what they understood in the reading materials given to them. That is why in the picture, most learners feel exhausted in their tasks that they have to make their class activities on bed and sleep when tired. What it seems funny but alarming is what this next picture shows. While the child is forced to attend online class through the use of a tablet, the mother needs to hold a cloth hanger to warn him that if he will not listen to the teacher, then he might get a whip or a spank from the mother. These are some of the worst scenarios, which in reality, if not an exaggeration, is happening. In the pictures, the mothers are the one answering the learning modules to be submitted in school. That is, who learned? The children or the mothers? Worst of all, that how I wish I should not be true and happening, that the parents need to bribe the students in order to accomplish the school task. That is putting money equivalent to the task so that the student will be motivated to finish the task. Lastly, if the students will be graduating this time, graduation is conducted virtually, of which was pioneered by Japan School in using robots with tables showing the face of the students who are graduating. And this time in our country, we are doing this until this time. Virtual graduation are all schools in the whole Philippines since schools are still closed for face-to-face classes. The next slide shows funny anecdotes in the life of a teacher, getting responses of the students, whether online or modules in these class activities or tests. As you can see in the picture in a math test, the question is, Bob has 36 candy bars. He eats 29. What does he have now? So instead of performing the operation of subtraction, the student who was not able to or who has no someone or teacher to ask at the time will answer, Bob has now diabetes. So in an English class with the class activity with the instruction, write 5 words you can spell. Therefore, the child choose the 5 letters from the instruction and write 5 words you can and spell. And the teacher commented that the student is clever enough to do that. So the next is uh, a mathematics problem showing the solution on how to solve for a trigonometric function. And notice that since there again no teacher to guide the student canceled the n in sign and the n for n to represent a variable, so that the teacher has no other choice but to write stupid on the paper. The other one is in mathematics, the instruction is expand the operations of the quantity a plus b squared. And what the student did is still expand. That is to write the equation in an expanded form in terms of separating one symbol and letters from the other. And this is another task in the conversion of metric systems. And the instruction is to change centimeter to meters. And what will you do? So the student said you just take out the centi and therefore the meters will be left. So these are just some of the funny instances that we encountered in the delivery of instruction using the modules. That is, there is no teaching happening because only lectures to be read are being given to our public school students with no radio, with no television to watch on, and just read the lectures given. So, what is most alarming? And it's very important consideration that the administrators, parent, and teachers should look into. In the last picture, the student is solving a mathematical equation that came into a step of getting the square root of the algebraic expression. So for the frustration of the student, rather than solving here, he draws something which is very alarming. So more and more research problems are becoming of concerns that need conduct and immediate action plan. So as most countries resort to online education, here are some of the technologies that impact significantly the conduct of online learning, which are AI or machine learning, the virtual or augmented reality, social learning, better company data, and gamification. As per my personal observation, as the students are into learning, most especially the boys are into online gaming. And it was surprising that in the Philippines, this is a national concern as both our high school and college students are hooked into playing ML or Mobile Legends. And how I wish I can do a comprehensive research on this so that more students wake up early every day, informing their parents that their purpose is to attend their classes online. But in fact, after lagging in their classes, they resort to online gaming and classmates, resulting to low test scores and low grades. Based on the technologies presented, one that played the most effect on online education is AI or artificial intelligence. And it is a wide-ranging branch of computer science concerned with building smart machines capable of performing tasks that specifically require human intelligence, so that AI is an interdisciplinary science with multiple approaches, but advances in machine learning and deep learning are creating a paradigm shift in virtually every sector of the technological industry. Also, it encompasses everything from chatbots to data analysis systems, helping businesses around the globe to create personalized sales driving experiences for consumers and business buyers. And most of all, the features of AI include deep learning, facial recognition, automating of tasks, data ingestion, cloud computing, quantum computing, and chatbots. As most of the features of AI are being used in the conduct of online education, there are so many schools that concerns that schools should look into. Will teachers be replaced by robots? Will teachers be replaced by gadgets? Will AI respond to the needs of each and everyone that needs education so that no student will be left behind? So I was able to get the data of from education from the Ministry of Education in India, and this is now represented here that there are 70 millions enrollees in the higher education, and these are distributed into the following. So the risk involved because of emerging technologies had been increasing from time to time, so that the question is the technology space suited to the need of the learners, especially the children? Are the children being spied? Are they being watched? Are they not suffering from cyberbullying? So, as I am also a certified DPO or data privacy officer, I used to give lectures to teachers how to protect the data privacy right of the children. That is, the teacher should be able to protect the sensitive information of the students. Posting to social media pictures of students while attending classes need consent, specifically from parents, as these are minors who are vulnerable to many forms of cyberbullying. Chat groups with no teachers or parents included will result to conflicts among peers and classmates. Issues such as requiring students to open their cameras during classes is optional as it is an invasion of their privacies and more other issues. Most importantly, conduct of online classes needs collaboration efforts from both parents and teachers as partners. We do not want our learners to experience being cyberbullied or acquire depression due to cyber fatigue. Much as parents and teachers wanted to protect the children, pupils, and students from the risk of these emerging technologies, the role of schools, colleges, and universities, primarily the teachers, are very significant. The teachers should be able to inform the parents of the risks and vulnerabilities that their children might be subjected to. So with this, I thank you again and good day, everyone. So this is dedicated to all teachers. Thank you for continuing to teach our children from afar during this coronavirus pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Participants, if you have any doubts, you can ask.
So I'm very much willing to accept questions if there are some. There is saying that silence means yes. And I'm looking at the chat if there is a question.
Ma'am, is technology going to be a facilitator for the post-pandemic era?
I believe that technology will be used from now on because the situation will become not normal again. That's why there is a new term now called new normal. And with the condition that the virus and those who are acquiring it are still increasing, I believe that by history, it seems that the countries around the world will be suffering from this in a matter of 2 years, and we still have 1 year to suffer. So that is also the question on, do you think the online learning will continue even after pandemic? Because there is nothing that we can do. The government, in our country, doesn't invest much in education. So I'm just sad that in our public schools, there is no teaching that is happening. But in the private schools, of which some had closed temporarily, only a few performed online education. And just to say, aside from being the Dean of the College of Computer Studies in our university, since childhood, my dream is to put up a school, and it was materialized 9 years ago. So I am also the principal of my own school with elementary, high school, and now we'll be accepting the senior high school. And we are struggling to continue the delivery of instruction during this pandemic using online learning.
Okay, ma'am. Participants, do you have any more questions?
I hope that you learned something from it today, because I believe that all the participants are teachers or professors from the university.
Yes, ma'am. Majority are there. We have some selected students also.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you for the wonderful session. One more question we have, ma'am.
Yeah, I can read it. What kind of practices can be taken to make sure that the online learning now is making every student involved, even though it is really tough to implement? Just maybe in India, like in the Philippines, one difficulty of our students is the connectivity. Aside from the cost of the gadget, which is expensive, they have to invest on stable connection. So given the stable connection using Wi-Fi or data charges in their cell phone, schools are struggling to offer online education through several platforms. We have the Learning Management System or the LMS. That is the reason why Google Classrooms and some other free LMS software like Edmodo and other freewares are being utilized by different schools. So I believe that at this time, we only have online learning, use of technology in order to reach our far students.
Okay, ma'am, thank you for your wonderful inputs. We are highly indebted to your valuable insights. Now, we are marching towards the end of the STTP. Before concluding, let me thank you all once again. This AICTE and CSI sponsored STTP would not have been possible without the unconditional support of the management of the KCG College of Technology. On behalf of the coordinating team, I thank the management for facilitating the conduct of the STTP and initiating the same. Along with that, I would like to place on record my sincere thanks on behalf of the coordinating committee to our beloved principal for his guidance. I would also like to thank our HOD, Dr. J. Frank Vijay, for his support throughout the whole program. My special thanks to our system administrator, Mr. Nibin Matthew, who took great care in hosting the meeting and running them smoothly without any technical issues. I would also like to thank the entire coordinating team for their meticulous planning and effective execution of the whole schedule. The International and Foreign Affairs Cell of KCG College of Technology and Hindustan University, who helped us in sourcing our wonderful resource persons across the globe, also deserve a word of gratitude. I'm sure there won't be any two opinion on the expertise of the panel members. I thank all the experts who take time out of their busy schedule in making this STTP a reservoir of knowledge and creating such a wonderful learning experience. Last but not the least, I would like to thank all of you participants. Without your active involvement, this STTP would have been pointless. I thank all of you for your active participation even in the midst of your busy schedule. Thank you all once again for the active cooperation. We are indeed happy to acknowledge the active participation of all of you, and your certificates will be mailed to you within next 3 days. Thank you once again. Thank you.